deciding many years ago when I first came to America that I was going to be staying here for more than the 3 years that I initially came here for. And here I am 40 years later, still in America. I was single back then, and so that was the big turning point. I was 32, 33 at the time. I was living in the Washington, D.C. area. The prospect of returning to work back in London again didn't appeal so much, and I'd enjoyed my time in America up to that point. I've not regretted the decision, so that would clearly be the biggest turning point in my life. I thought about it long and hard, but here I am. And then a few years later, I met Carol, my wife, and who's from around here, and here we are.
Well, I think when I got my CDL, because that's what I do for a living, I drive a truck. Before that, I didn't have a CDL, and I was looking for work and getting laid off and looking for another job, and but then got my CDL at community college down in Roanoke Valley. It's called Virginia Western, Community College, and that's how I got my CDL. And that's pretty much a turning point in my life, because that enhanced my pay and enhanced my career. So plus I got to travel a lot more than I ever did in the past. So
I guess when I got married, lived at home and had a big family, and I met my wife, and shortly after that we moved into a place of our own. So it was a big change back then. Well, before we lived in a small home, and I had a lot of sisters and just me, big family, and then after marriage, again, it's just us then. No, she passed away in 2008 with brain cancer. We got married when I was 18 years old and got married, and that's why we had long marriage at 47. Listen to everything she tells you to do and let her handle the finances. And you got it made then.
COVID-19, just really changed the whole world, just had a big effect on me, everybody else. It made me not be as social as I used to, and I'm still trying to recover from that. It's just something that's just, really had an impact on me that I'm still trying to get over right now.
Either committing to chemistry and us getting engaged, which was here at the Star, or maybe deciding on my major, because that's kind of taking me to my career now as well.
When I was in college and I had to do my internship, I was like, oh, where do I want to go? And I'm from Texas. We got a prompting that I should come to Virginia. My grandmother lives here. And so I came out here, and then I met him. And so it was just like, I could have been living in Texas forever, which is a cool state, I guess, but here's good.
So she came to do an internship with her grandma here, just kind of on a whim. She's an accountant. I was a missionary in Brazil for 2 years, so I got back from that, and we met at church. COVID happened, and it was rough. But for us, it was kind of great because we both got to stay here. She got to stay here longer and do college remote, and I was doing college remote, so we were both in Roanoke area, and so we were together for 10 months, and then before she went back to school, I brought her here and proposed, and we got engaged and waited for her to finish her degree in for 7 more months. Then we got married in August 2021 on August 5th.
Today.
So 2 years ago today.
I'm going to say having kids, it just changes everything in a good way. I think I became a kinder, more patient person after having kids.
I think mine was moving to Chicago. So I'm originally from Pittsburgh, and I moved to Chicago last year. I never moved that far away from home, and I quite literally went there by myself to follow a dream. It was an amazing decision, but I feel like I've grown so much in just 1 year, and also made so many close friendships and loved ones in Chicago. So, yeah.
Mine would be, it wasn't a short and quick one. It was when I kind of decided to switch from music to I'm now an occupational therapist, and that was over 4 or 5 years of coming out of being I don't want to do this music at 18, 20 years old. I want to do something different, and the process, I feel it just led me into a different version of myself that I didn't know existed.
The biggest turning point in my life, I would say when I got married. There was a lot of changes very quickly. I went from living at home and not needing any kind of house or anything like that to needing a big house and a family with 3 kids and 2 cats and So there's a lot of changes in a short period of time.
It's gonna get dark real quick. When my dad got cancer and I had to learn to be an adult at a young age, real quick. My house is quite old and we have we run off of wood stove power. I had to learn at the age of 13 how to drive, go out, get everything, and come back and run my house by myself. Yeah, that's probably the biggest turning point in my life.
The biggest turning point in my life was probably me switching from living with my mom to living with my dad, because now that I look back on it, like everything is just so much different. Like how I live my life now versus how I used to live my life, it's very crazy. Like I never would have met this lovely man if I didn't switch from my mom's to my dad's.
I would say probably when my parents got divorced or my sister moved away. You know, seeing my mom single and never home really changed a lot because I had to spend more time with my grandparents because she was working all the time trying to support the family herself. And then my sister moving away because she's always been my best friend.
Yeah, I'd say probably moving away for me as well. I went to college in Atlanta and then I stayed there for a couple of years afterwards. But yeah, I just recently moved back, so I'm excited to be back and be closer to my family and be able to spend more time with them now.
Oh, I have another one. Yeah, the first time I tried acid, that was a big turning point in my life. It really expanded my consciousness and like my views on the world. Yeah.
Actually, when I met my husband, we started a life together and we moved from the East Coast all the way up to Alaska, and then we moved back from Alaska down to Virginia. The fact that I tried to get a position for a supervisor, it was a big change in my life. It was extremely frightening, and now we're here and we're just enjoying it. I stopped fearing about what I wanted to do with my life and just started it. Not exactly timid, more afraid of how things would change or how afraid it would change in a good way or a bad way or failing in that situation.
Biggest turn, meeting my wife right here, because I get to spend all the rest of my life with her. It's been 13 years so far, so it's been great. I was married once before, and that was good, but it didn't last. Had 2 great kids out of it. They're very successful, so everything's good with them, and we got our life and our dog, and we're good.
When I had kids, it's very special being a mom. There's something fulfilling about being a mom. There's just nothing quite like it.
Probably graduating high school. So much happened after that. I had to find out where I was going and what I wanted to do. I had so much time because I didn't have a full-time job, so I was only working part-time, so I had just so much time on my hands to do a bunch of different things. I started trying to find more jobs. I worked at just off and on at a cafe. But yeah, it's just wasted time and had to figure out what I was going to do with that time.
So right now I'm in nursing school. I guess just like choosing to do nursing school would be the biggest point, because it's like, I guess, the start of my whole career that I'm trying to do. Okay, so my mom is actually a nursing professor. During the pandemic, I was actually trying to do a computer science degree, but then, I don't know, it didn't really connect with me. And since my mom was a nursing professor, she was like, oh, why don't you come here and we'll get you set up like to do nursing. So I was like, oh, this sounds good. Oh, this sounds interesting. And that's what happened. I don't have any crazy story or anything, but
I would say joining the Marines. I spent about 6 years in the Marine Corps. I got out in December of 2011. So it's been 12 years now, I guess, just about. Just kind of becoming a man, I guess. I was like a little punk before I went in, and by the time I got out of the Marines, I was a completely different person.
Probably my dad passing 10 years ago now, I think, because it taught me to appreciate things more. It's kind of crazy. Like, I don't know how to explain him. Like, he was just like your dad, you know? He's very wild. He liked fishing and partying and doing all those things. Being with his friends a lot.
Maybe about 7 years ago,
kind of really tried to start eating more plant-based, as little meat, dairy, eggs as possible. Our diet's impact on the environment, of course, our health, and the animals, you know. Well, here, I'll give you an interesting fact. So 10,000 years ago, humans were 1% of all, I guess it's vertebrate mammals on Earth. And wild animals were 99%. And now, 10,000 years later, wild animals are about 1%. Humans are about 32%. And livestock is about 67%. All over the world, all these crops are grown to feed the cows, pigs, chickens, turkey, sheep, lamb, goat, etc. All that land that's growing corn and soybeans, you know, it's not in its natural state like grassland or forest or a combination or whatever. And then it's all, you know, constantly fertilized. And you think all that fertilizer run off into the rivers and then into the oceans. So supposedly all the livestock we raise in our country, just in the U.S., makes about 100 to 130 times as much sewage as the humans. It's not really treated like we do the human sewage with sewage treatment plants. It goes in lagoons and a lot of it ends up washing into streams, etc. Only a fraction of it gets reused as fertilizer. When the population of Earth was a little over 7 billion, I think they said the whole Earth was raising about a little over 70 billion land animals per year to be slaughtered for meat. 2 football fields on average would feed one person on what they call a standard American diet, where, you know, people eat meat at least 2 times a day, maybe some eggs, dairy. The same 2 football fields could feed 14 people on a vegan diet. It's too hard. People just can't stop eating meat. It's like the easiest thing we could do to improve the environment, combat climate change. If people just eat beans or, you know, veggie burger, the fake meat type things. That's the easiest thing people could do. You know, it doesn't require legislation. You don't have to get permission to do it. You can just do it on your own. Start now.
Going to rehab for anxiety. I couldn't leave my house for 3 months. It's actually a genetic disorder. Everyone in my mother's side of the family has it, so it's not really a external, internal thing. It's more of just a generalized kind of thing. But, you know, I just got help and learned how to deal with it. You know, now I run a business and go to college and have a wife.
When I made the decision to leave my ex-husband, it was like a light switch moment, and I had this moment, and I was like, it is time. It has been too much, and I'm done. And I left, and that was it. I think there was a lot of growth and perspective stuff, 10 years ago, and I have a complete 180. Yep, I have a new husband and a new life and a new career and a new town.
Probably decided to leave college and just work. Just figured it wasn't best for me. Just couldn't do it. Just rather make money, help my mom out. I work at a sawmill right now.
What a question. I don't know. I've had a lot of like small turning points. I don't think I've had like one big turning point, you know what I'm saying? I've gotten into photography for the last 3 years, and I guess buying this camera, I had never taken like a pro picture, and then I started just doing it all the time, and then now I'm like an aspiring photographer, and a lot of people say that I'm pretty good at it, I guess. So I guess I've kind of changed career paths, I suppose. Suddenly, I had this job. I received a bunch of money all at once, and I just like had this money all of a sudden. And I was like, I'm gonna invest in a camera because suddenly I could. It's something I'd always wanted to do. I just couldn't afford to, you know.
Leaving home when I was 16 and hitchhiking to California. Nothing much had happened where I was at, so I just had to get out there and see what was going on. 1975. Well, you learn a lot about people. The ones that you think you can trust, that society thinks are the good people, are the ones that you can't trust, and the ones that society look down on are the ones that help me out. Hitchhiked to Arkansas and stayed on a commune. Well, you can't be bashful. Yeah, it was really cool. Very nice people. The biggest turning point was moving to Colorado when I was 30 years old. I found my true self. Well, I think just being in that environment outdoors with a lot of sunshine and friendly people was fantastic. I moved from Boston where it was darker, grayer, and people weren't as nice.
Probably when I moved from Indiana to Virginia in 6th grade, because that kind of set everything in motion from like the rest of my life, like college, friends, relationships. So it was like, it sucked in the moment, but then now years later, I'm like the happiest I've ever been.